Expressions with Barbara. I am indeed honored to have as my special guest Dr. Eddie Connor. Dr. Connor is so happy to have you.
Oh, appreciate it.
He's a busy man, a very important man.
Appreciate it.
And so for just to have you on the show, it's a pleasure.
Oh, yes.
And I'm so blessed just to, first of all, meet you. For a young man that has done so many wonderful things and such a commitment to giving back and being a mentor. He's done so many wonderful things. I just want to tell you a little bit about what he's accomplished. He's an earned doctorate.
Yes.
Dr. Eddie Connor, he's a professor at Marygrove College.
Yes.
And he is a member of New Mount Moriah Baptist Church. He's an author of his fifth book. And it's already caught my heart. His fifth book is Heal Your Heart, Unwrap the Gift in You. And we're going to be talking about his book today and other books that he would share with us. He's also a mentor. He's an international speaker, motivational speaker, and he's a preacher of the gospel. I can see the anointing. But I was impressed to know what you're doing for our youth. Our youth are in trouble.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited to hear you share with our audience today about Boys to Books, because it is a sad commentary when we look on national news and hear the racial divide and all the anger and bitterness that's going on between races. So I'm just happy to have you today and share with our audience. So Dr. Connor, first of all, tell us about your growing up in Jamaica. You grew up in Jamaica,
yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about your diagnosis of cancer and how you overcame that.
Absolutely. You know, I have to say it's truly an honor to be able to be on your show, Barbara, with your bright analysis as well as you providing breakthrough for so many people. And truly, you are definitely one of Detroit's divas. And by divas, I mean by divas, I mean divinely inspired, victorious, accomplished sisters. And so to see what God is doing through you, to be able to be a vehicle of victory for somebody else is really just an inspiration. And, you know, as you allude to me growing up in Jamaica, it truly was a profound experience, because that island of 3.8 million people, to where so many people, their feet are their shoes. You know, we have the hood in America, but they have the bottom over in that island. And it's an exotic island, you know, it's a tourist attraction. However, I was living in some destitute places, that being Kingston, which is notorious for drugs and so many things that are negative. And to live in that third world country, it gave me a first-hand perspective of really what people are dealing with, and then also to provide some breakthrough in their lives and to enhance people. And that really gave me a love and a passion for people from all walks of life, from various backgrounds, and that really set the course, as well as the education that I have, because of that rich British education that is replete throughout that island. And so to be able to come back over here, and my mother is an evangelist throughout the island as well as in various places overseas, and to live with her as well as my brother, and to be raised on that island as she ministered, as she fed people who did not have the amenities that we have, and for her to rear me and train me and root me in that, you know, I came over here with a Jamaican accent.
Okay, I was wondering, where did it go?
Yeah, man. We call me the team, man. Yeah, no problem. You know, so I came over here. I was teased, you know, profusely about the accent, and you know, you living over here after such amount of time, you know, you lose it. But I go back over there from time to time, and I minister, and I just extol and inspire the people. And of course, coming back here betwixt my American as well as Jamaican roots, if you want to combine the two, Jamaican. I grapple with a number of different things. And I was growing up in a single-parent divorce household where my mother was raising myself and my brother. And one of the greatest challenges that I faced was at the age of 15. You know, you're 15 as a sophomore in high school. You just want to be a kid. You know, I was playing basketball at this time and running cross country, getting ready to play varsity basketball. And my life seemed to stop on a halt. You know, you can be on the highway of life and just something and somebody just interrupts you. They crash, and you didn't even see where it was coming from. And it seemed as if my life was crashing as I was grappling with some chest pain at this time. And as men, what we're taught to do, they're told if you fall off a bike at 4 years of age, get up. Stop crying. You're a man. I'm a man as a little boy. And to be inculcated in society where men are not supposed to show any emotion. If you're dealing with something on the inside, you just grin and bear it. And that's what I did. I was experiencing a number of different chest pains, and I did not investigate it and go to the hospital. But my mother, who was a praying woman, she said, something's going on. You need to talk to me. What's going on? And the pain exacerbated and got so bad to where I was sitting over at my friend's house and we're watching the Rose Bowl game. He's from the South, and so I was kicking with him for a little bit of time. And I was experiencing some chest pains that were so bad, it felt like somebody was stabbing me in my chest, like they were stomping on my heart. And I didn't have any license to drive to the hospital. He didn't have one either. His mother takes me there. And the story goes that the doctors do a CT scan of the chest, and they see that there's a blockage. They cut me open, and they see that my cells are growing so fast. They need a microscope. They could see them growing with the naked eye. Around my trachea, around my esophagus, around my heart, my voice box, the place I'm speaking to you out of right now. And I felt great coming out of surgery. And the doctor said, right before you get ready to go back into the stream and the flow of what you do and going back to class, I need to let you know we have a diagnosis for you. And I'm thinking it's probably a punctured lung, a bad cold, pneumonia, something like that. He says, you've been diagnosed with NHL. And as I'm 15, I'm thinking NHL, that's good news. I'm getting ready to be the youngest owner of a National Hockey League team. What in the world is going on? What do you mean? Why are you so despondent, Doc? This is great news. He says, no. You've been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And as a 15-year-old, as I think in retrospect, my first language is Ebonics. I'm still trying to learn English. Doc, what do you mean? He says you've been diagnosed with not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 stage 4 cancer. And I know the statistics suggest that every second in America, 2 or 3 people are diagnosed with cancer. 1 in every 1,000 teenagers is diagnosed, and I was that teenager. How could that be me? Why me? Why not? You can't get cancer till you're 70, 80 years of age. A young black kid, young black male, 15, energized, energetic, pretty in shape. Why me? Why not? He told me, don't ask why. I'm like, you're my physician. You're not my psychologist. For the next 18 months, close to 2 years. Why me? Why now? Growing up in a single-parent divorce household where my biological father never visited me one day in the hospital. As you know, people be with you on the mountaintop of success, but they scatter in your valley of struggle. And if I'm telling you every single day that I thought I was going to make it, that I believed I was going to make it, despite being depressed, discombobulated, and dismayed, I'm lying to you. Because there were a lot of days where I felt like throwing in the towel. But I have a praying mother who said, you got to go to Psalm 118 and 17, which says, you shall not die, but live and declare the works of the Lord. You got to go to Isaiah chapter 53 and 5. It says, who his own self bore sins on the tree, that you being dead to sins. He is the one who can give you the power to live. And he's the one who can give you the power and the strength to be able to overcome, because by his own sins, by our own sins, he took it to where the chastisement of our peace is upon him. By his stripes we're already healed. And so to be able to hear that and to be able to see that and to be able to experience that a knockdown is not a knockout unless you stay down. You got to get back up again, because the first 3 letters in cancer is can. There's somebody who may be listening, dealing with cancer, dealing with maybe not be stage 4, but your financial state may be in a bad stage. Your home may be in a bad state or a stage, but you can overcome. Because the battle is not physical, it's psychological. And if you can win inside your mind, your situation can't stand. Think positive in a negative situation. God is not only bringing you out, but he's bringing you through.
Praise God. As I hear you talk about some of the dark days.
Yes.
God in his providence, though, was setting you up for what you're doing right now. I truly believe that what you said on one of your videos, you cannot have a testimony until you've gone through the test.
Right.
It's just like Jesus, he had to go through Samaria. And sometimes we have to go through our Samaria. Your passion of what you give back, what you speak, I can feel what God has done for you. You can now say, I know there is a God.
Yes.
I know that He's a healer.
Yeah.
And I know that He will bring me through.
Absolutely.
You can say that with confidence because you've been there.
Yes.
You've been there. And you preach the gospel.
Yes. I started preaching at 15 with cancer in my body in Jamaica. And its story goes, because I share all the time that your test is a testimony, your misery is ministry, your mess is a message, your stumbling block is a stepping stone. And what God does, He uses your setback as a setup for your greatest comeback. And I was in Jamaica and the doctor said, go and take, and this, I'm about 16 at this time, the doctors tell my mother, take him on a vacation. Let's suspend treatment, chemo and radiation. I was getting it 5 days a week. You see these waves today? I lost all my hair. I'm telling you, it's okay. You can laugh at my pain. I'm telling you, I can laugh about it, and I want people to laugh about it with me because there was so many days I cried. To where, I'd go to sleep and my hair follicles would be on my pillow and I'd wake up and I'd just cry like a baby, I'm telling you. But I was in Jamaica and the doctors gave me clearance to go on the island. And the pastor there, Pastor Johnson, who was there, he said, I want you, he talked to me, he brought me in the office, he said, I want you to preach on Sunday. I'm like, preach on Sunday. Yes. I think, I was still about 15, 16, something like that. And so I'm like, Pastor, you want me to preach? And I always knew the call of God on my life since the age of 12. I knew I was supposed to evangelize and preach and minister, but you don't always want to embrace it and accept it. And so I'm preparing a message that night, and I'm writing it out, and I remember like it was yesterday, it was called Destined to Overcome the Odds. And I print the message out, and some people may not regard it as much, but for me it symbolized something. The message printed out in red. And for me it symbolized that God's blood, the blood of Jesus was covering me, even in spite of what I was dealing with. And so I preached the message, Destined to Overcome the Odds, and those people surrounded me. I'm telling you, at the end, they brought me up and they prayed for me. And at this time, I'm probably 150 pounds bigger than I am now. And I'm probably 175 pounds soaking wet. No hair on my head. And I looked like I was going through. But I preached in spite of my pain. I preached that God would not only bring me out, but anybody else who was in that audience who was dealing with an infirmity or a specific illness. And those people began to pray for me even at the end. And I'm telling you, the Bible says the prayers of a righteous availeth much. And that is what availed me through my place of affliction. Because in spite of the infirmity, God is giving you the power to handle it. And it's like the woman with the issue of blood. 12 years. She was grappling with her illness. And she pressed her way to where she did not just touch him, H-I-M, but she touched the hem, H-E-M, of his garment. To where you can press your way to past your situation and move from situation to revelation to manifestation to restoration towards your destination.
Amen.
Yes, indeed.
I don't know how to ask this, but do you think God allows some things to happen to us to give us to allow us to be a better vehicle, a better servant for Him? We don't always know why God does things. Why do you think He allowed you to have cancer?
Well, and that's a great question. What He allows, the Bible records that He won't allow or He won't put more on you than you can bear. And we can look in Job to where Satan even came to God. And he said, Job only serves you because of what you do for him. And the fact of the matter is, Job was the richest man in the East, I believe, at that time in the Bible. And anything you could have thought of, he had it. But he was stripped of his clothes. He had boils on his skin. And the Lord trusted Job enough to say, I'll allow you to take everything that you have from him. But I know what I placed in him, and what I allow you to put on him is not greater than the strength that's on the inside of him. You may be able to tempt him, you may be able to afflict him, you may be able to have his friends say, curse God and die. But he knows that I'm going to give him double for all of his trouble. And you know, it's interesting. We say Job got double for all his trouble, but even though he lost his children and he got some other children, doesn't really replace the ones
he had.
No.
Or the wife.
Right. Even that.
Even that.
But the Lord knew what he placed on the inside of him, and Job, even for naught, even for everything that was surrounded by him, he still kept his trust in him. Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him.
He had some dark days.
That's right.
And it's ironic you mentioned Job, because even in your life, you had some dark days.
Yes,
but God knew what he put in you.
Right.
Yes.
And you're not going to get through this life unscathed.
Yes.
There's going to be some roses in life, but oftentimes those roses are going to have some thorns attached. And the fact of the matter is this: you have to understand, you have to recognize and realize that what I am going through is being used as a vehicle to bless somebody else. My testimony, and I never wanted to share it. I never wanted to write a book. My mother stayed on me. She said, you have to share your story because it's not for you.
It's not for you.
It's to bless somebody else. And what God wants to do is he wants to bring some glory from your story. When Lazarus died and Mary and Martha said, Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And Jesus stayed 2 days in the same city. The reason he did is because he knew that in order for me to show you that I'm the resurrection and the life, you're going to have a dead situation. For me to show you that I'm a healer, I'm going to have to allow you to be sick. You're going to have to go through some dark days. For me to show you that you can move into prosperity, I'm going to have to bring you out of poverty. But through that situation, you got to have enough gall and resilience and faith in me, size of a mustard seed, to be able to trust me in spite of what you see. Because I'm telling you, I can bring you out with a mighty hand. And we have to trust him in spite of it. Because yes, I'm going through it, but he's going to cause me to grow through it to bring something greater out of my life.
Well, you know, as Christians, we think, well, I've accepted Christ and everything should be hunky-dory, but he never promised us a rose garden.
He did.
And he allows things to come in our lives to perfect us. We forget that sometimes. I'm a child of God and he loves me, but there is another part of us maturing to him. Yeah. He's got to allow some things so that we can learn to increase our faith.
Absolutely.
To be able to learn to have a testimony like you have today.
Absolutely. And
we can say it with confidence.
That's right. And you and I and so many other people who are watching can say, I've never been attacked like this when I was on the other team.
On the other side.
When I was with the enemy, he didn't attack because I was on his side. But being a person who was now invested and I received the salvation of the Lord and I began to move in relationship with him, that's when the attack comes. Because really the enemy now realizes that you have come into the awareness and the conscience of what God has placed on the inside of you. And he's trying to strip it, but you have to understand that this is my time to break forth, break free, and break out into the purpose that God has for me, because it's time for breakthrough.
Powerful, powerful. So sometimes we don't always understand the hand of God, but we can trust that he knows what's best. Yeah. And we can trust that with confidence.
You're right. And what he does is, even in our place of weakness, he provides strength for us. He gives us comfort. And even it brings us to the fact and the awareness to know that the trying of our faith is working patience. Because I lost an aunt to cancer, my best friend. And I've never really had a best friend since Henry. He passed at the age when I was 7. We were both 7 years of age, and he died of leukemia. And to get to the awareness and the level of understanding that, as I alluded to, the trying of your faith is working patience, but also death is swallowed up in victory. And then also knowing that to live is Christ, but also to die is gain. And when we have hope in spite of it, and even through the tears, through the years that seem to not even take away the pain, we know that God can strengthen us in our time of weakness as we draw closer to him.
And I think sometimes when he allows those things that we don't quite understand, that we have nothing else to do but to lean on him.
Because these are, the intricacies of really what people deal with every day. And we mask it. We mask it with makeup, as Dr. Cornell West would say. We perfume our pain. We go through life dressed up on the outside, messed up on the inside.
I looked at your books and I said, I have a room full of books in there.
Oh, wow.
And I said, now I hope he's got this ebook.
Absolutely.
So I can start downloading more books on my iPad because I just don't want to pack around any more books. But I downloaded this book.
Yes.
Now let's talk about Heart to Heal. Let's talk about this one first.
Yes.
Then we can backtrack with it because this is your 5th book.
Yes.
Let's talk about Heal Your Heart. Unwrap the gift in you.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
Yes, Heal Your Heart is it comes from my 4th. This is my 5th book, but the prior one prior one of that was Unwrap the Gift in You, which really shares from the whole concept and the aspect of an African proverb, which suggests the 2 most important dates in your life are, number 1, the day that you were born, but secondly, the day you realize why you were born. And that why symbolizes purpose. You know, the great, one of the greatest apostles of all time who never was a disciple of Jesus, one of the original 12, he wrote 75% of the New Testament. Paul says, stir up the gift. Proverbs says your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. But Pablo Picasso, one of the greatest painters of all time, says the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give your gift away. We are all red boxes and gold bowls because we're gifts to the world. And when we understand the purpose that we have, that positions us for passion. That passion should birth that gift on the inside of us. And so that's why I wrote the 4th one, Unwrap the Gift in You. But I could never have written Heal Your Heart without that book. And it got me to the place to where I went back into some difficult, dark days that I had faced, especially with cancer, my ordeal, but also with not experiencing the rearing of a father in my life. And I could never have written Heal Your Heart without experiencing hurt, without experiencing pain and brokenness. And I wanted to write a book on how to heal from broken relationships. And I really wanted to cover the whole gamut of dating, marriage, parenting. I work as an educator as well. I've had the last 10 to 12 years as an educator in the classroom, and even
10 to 12 years.
Yes.
And you're don't look a day past.
Well,
seriously,
you're far too kind.
No, I'm sure the audience will attest. Your youth.
Yes. And so, I mean, it's given me a panoramic perspective. You know, black don't crack. So.
Yeah, you said that.
Because you got guys glow all over you too.
Well, I try.
That's that melanin in the skin, you know.
Yes.
But yes, it gives me a panoramic perspective to be able to write from a number of different concepts. And, you know, relationships are not monolithic. You know, it's not just one specific stone. You need love, you need communication. But what is communication if I'm not receptive enough to listen? And I'm not receptive enough to hear? What is love if I've never experienced it? And so to really write a book, and I really wrote it to extol the virtues and values of really what women bring to society. And to see my mother grapple with a number of different things, but to see her also be resilient and strong in raising myself, even as an educator of 30 years, her attaining her doctorate in counseling, and to write a book that extols the virtues and values of women. I wrote a poem in there called Queen.
Queen.
Yes, and I define Queen as quintessentially unique, empowering everyone naturally. And to talk about you knowing your worth and your value and experiencing it. You know, if I was to give you a $100 bill, and I took this $100 bill out and it was pristine, it was crisp, of course you would want it. But if I were to crumple it up and throw it on the floor, question is, would you still want it?
I think I still want it.
You'd still want it, of course. If I took that same $100 bill that I crumpled up, that I threw on the floor, and I stepped on it and I twisted my foot, would you still want it?
Yes.
If I took that same $100 bill and I threw it into the street and I let a Mack truck run over that $100 bill, would you still want it?
It's still $100?
It's still a $100 bill, whether it's tattered or torn. The fact of the matter is, in spite of what has been done to that $100 bill and has been pieced back together, it still has its value. We may have been knocked down, we may have been stepped on, we may have been crumpled, we may have been thrown into the streets, And we may have been tattered and torn in our own lives, but we still have our value. If a $100 bill can attain its essence, you got to believe that we're worth more than $100. We're priceless because we've been bought with a price. Our value does not diminish based on what has happened to us. Our value is sustained because of what God has placed in us. And when we know the value that we have, we can press past the hurt, we can press past the pain, and we can experience God's healing in our hearts. And I'm telling the people, you can, let me just do a little infomercial, little PSA, public service announcement. Once you get Heal Your Heart in your hands, you will experience healing in your heart. And I want to let you know that the revolution will be televised and online. I don't want you to miss it. You can go to my website, which is eddieconner.com, and you can get that book signed, still delivered. It's yours. EDDIECONNOR.com, and you can get that book Heal Your Heart. It's been empowering people all over the country. Steve Harvey brought me on his show, BET, and so many other great things. Tom Jones Family Reunion, the morning show. So it's been great to be able to impact and empower people to get to the root of the issues and to feel the pulse and the pain of the people and to give them a remedy for the malady that they've been experiencing.
Because if you don't get healed and you don't really get to know who you are and who you are in Christ, you will keep making the same mistakes over and over again. One divorce, two divorce, three divorce, four divorces, because you need to deal with the issues and the root of your problems. Because you carry them with you.
That's right.
And I love the heart. We've already talked about that, and part of what I share about what I'm writing about, God only really wants our heart.
Wow.
He only asks for the heart.
Right.
Now we know the mind, the will, and emotions and soul and all that, but He says, "Give me your heart." And I believe it's in Ezekiel where I'll take that heart of stone, and I'll give you a new heart. And that's where He does His work, is in the heart.
That's right.
Yeah, I love the heart.
Yes, you're so right about that, because even, the Greeks define the word heart as lev, L-E-V. And that specifically speaks to the essence of our emotions, our will, our desire. Everything that, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. Everything that proceeds from us is seated in the roots of the heart. And so what you're hearing somebody say, what you see somebody's relationship in, it all comes from the essence of what's on the inside. And that's why it's so unique and so intricate for us. And I write about it in the book, that our life is a magnet. And really we begin to attract the type of people that we are. If we're negative, we're going to attract those type of people. If we're positive, we're going to repel the negative and attract those who are positive in our lives. And that's why it's very important for us to be able to unify and to be able to understand that our network determines our net worth, and we have to build our net so that those who are around us can begin to work for us and through us. And so when we understand that we have to let go of negative people, we got to let go of negative thoughts and negative dispositions, because I told somebody the other day, if people then are in your life and they're not adding to your life, you got to do some simple math and subtract them from your life. Some people you just have to bless and release. Some people you have to love from a distance, because you have to understand that I can't allow any detour to destruction. I can't allow anybody to impair my path to promise and possibility, because I'm pregnant with purpose, promise, possibility, and potential. And I can't let anybody abort my vision, and I've got to give birth to everything that's on the inside of me. I told somebody, I said, the richest place on the planet is not Bill Gates' house. He's worth $50-something billion liquid. It's not Oprah Winfrey's house. I know, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that. It's not it's not Oprah Winfrey's house. He's worth $1 billion. It's not LeBron James's house. I know the king is seeking his third ring, and he's got a $90 million contract to where he makes more money off the court than he does on the court. It may be this house. I'm looking all over this place. This palatial palace that you have. I'm praying for it to be mine, but the richest place on the planet is really your local cemetery, as Miles Monroe suggests. Because the richest place on the planet is the place where people have died with melodious, mellifluous, and euphonious gifts on the inside of them, music and cures to diseases and books that they've never written, businesses that they've never opened. We have to be challenged enough and changed in our minds enough and resilient enough to birth everything that we have on the inside of us and literally to die empty. To say, I'm going to give it all, the blood, the sweat, the tears, every vision that I have, every business, every purpose, every promise, I'm going to give birth to it because I can't allow myself to die and for it to be trapped on the inside of me. I can't abort it. I can't give a stillborn birth to what I have. It's got to flow through me so that I can impact somebody else's life.
Because God gave it to you.
Absolutely.
You came here with purpose.
Yes, indeed.
And you're really being disobedient
Yeah.
to the Father when you don't do what He has put in you to do.
Yes, indeed.
And I love this, heal your hurt, heal your heart.
Yeah.
Because if we don't get healed, if we don't get to the root of the problem, we have messed up families.
Oh, sure.
We have messed up communities, and we take that to the church.
Yeah.
Now, we know that the gospel goes forth in the church, and we know that healing takes place, but we have to make the choice to do something about the pain and difficulties in our lives.
You're absolutely right.
You have to do it yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you.
Right.
And I'm a counselor, certified biblical counselor, and I have just looked in the face of so many that won't let go.
Wow.
Won't let go of the anger. And that was one of the things that just kind of fueled what I was sharing with you earlier. You know, we carry that stuff.
Yeah.
And it eats us alive. I talk about the acid of anger because it will eat you alive.
Wow, that's good.
I've seen people that are just angry and bitter.
Yeah.
And they're just eating up. And
angry because you woke up in the morning. I mean, it's,
just because you open your eyes.
Right.
Heal your heart.
Yes.
Because that is the essence of who we are.
Yeah.
It's the total being of who God made us.
Absolutely.
I love the heart because
I need to read your new book when it's coming out. My goodness, that is awesome.
Hopefully it'll be out in August.
Yes.
But I love the heart because God does His work in the heart.
Yeah.
And when we can heal the heart, we can be better citizens.
Absolutely.
And better witnesses for Him.
Yes, indeed.
Amen. Let's talk about. Did you want to mention your other books?
Yes.
Mention the other books.
Yes.
One of those looked like I need to. It was the one about the second one.
Yes, Collections of Reflection.
Yes.
And then I've got my first one prior to that was Purposefully Prepared to Persevere. When I really go into even more depth than what we have time for today in relationship to why and why I was able to come out, and also how I came out and the ordeal of cancer. The second one, as you alluded to, Collections of Reflections, Symphonies of Strength. That's a poetry book.
Yes.
And I'm really giving a lot of rhythm and rhyme and sharing a panoramic perspective on relationships, on the community, on the climate of our world, and so many other things. My third one was Econ to Icon, from pop culture to President Barack Obama. And that speaks.
Talk about that.
Yes, that really speaks at looking at really our history in relationship to understanding who we are as kings and queens. And understanding that the history that we have as African Americans does not begin with slavery. It begins with us understanding our kingship and really our queenship, and understanding the whole aspect of we've gone from slavery to segregation to discrimination to inauguration twice, but we also have to understand that we still have so much farther to go, and that we stand on the shoulders of giants. This is what Fannie Lou Hamer says, one of the greatest civil rights icons in our day, in our time. She says that we did not sing "We Shall Overcome," so that when we overcame, we forgot about those who still need to come over. And so for us, considering the left, the lost, the overlooked, those who have been underrepresented, we are icons, and we have to identify the great leaders that we have in our society, and also pattern our lives after them. Not just celebrities, but we have to celebrate those individuals who are in our communities on the front lines, in the grassroots areas, to helping those who are not just from the top down, but helping those from the bottom up, those from the middle out, to be able to stretch out and be able to be resilient. My fourth one, as I alluded to, unwrap the gift in you, and of course, heal your heart.
Heal your heart.
Yes.
You know, Dr. Connor, I love doing this for two reasons. Because I meet wonderful people like you. But the other reason is there's so many people that are doing so many wonderful things. And before I got to really know you, had no idea this power that you have and how you're blessing the lives of young people. And so I just want our audience to know that that you're doing a great work and that you're being a great mentor to our young men. And we're going to talk about Boys to Books.
Yes,
and that it's an after school program.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And just how you're blessing the lives of young men,
Yeah.
building young men so that they can be good fathers.
Absolutely.
And good role models.
Yes, indeed.
So let's talk about that.
Yes. You know, Boys to Books is so near and dear to my heart. And it extends beyond just a regular school day or a regular time of teaching, to be able to extend my hands and really my heart into the community to help many of our young men who are like me, or who were like me, or growing up in single parent households, don't know their father, but also have a jaded view of their world. They say that 50% of young people don't have a mentor. By the time young males hit ninth grade, 50 to 60% of themselves consider 50% of them consider themselves non-readers. We can look at Detroit and see, according to the Pro-Literacy Organization, that 60% of Detroiters are functionally illiterate, which means 60%. 60. Wow. Without a vision, with people perish, and people also perish for a lack of knowledge.
Yes.
And so we're seeing a high functional illiteracy rate, which means people cannot read generally over a fourth grade reading level. 30 million Americans in these United States of America are functionally illiterate. And it also brings us to the whole aspect of understanding that we live in these United States of America. But yes, we also have to understand that we also live, it seems to be, the United States of amnesia, because we fail to remember that over 200 plus years ago it was illegal for black people to read. And we own that. They say if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. I'm all about demystifying that, because we're in this age of legalized discrimination and also mass incarceration. We can look at Ferguson, Missouri with Michael Brown. We can look even at Emmett Till in 1955. We can also look at 2015 and see so many things that it seems, even though we've made progression, seems like we're in a state of regression, of repealing. So many things in our world. And so I said, I did my master's in reading and literacy and saw the illiteracy and incarceration epidemic to where prisons, according to Dr. Jawanza Kanjufu, are built based on second and third grade reading scores. Michelle Alexander, in her book, The New Jim Crow, the old Jim Crow has now become the new Jim Crow, to where now there is this war on drugs that took place in the 1980s, was all about increasing the incarceration epidemic, to where now it's institutionalized slavery. And so even the 13th Amendment, I believe, suggests that slavery can take place in another form, which is imprisonment, incarceration. And so I worked in Congress with Hanson Clark, former Congressman Hanson Clark, and we drafted and developed a resolution, HR 721, which you can check it out on the World Wide Web, on the internet, and see that he and I crafted a resolution about illiteracy and incarceration affecting Black and Hispanic young males. And he told me in 2012, he said, I believe the president would pick this up. And I said, you're just being far too kind. You're trying to give me some congratulatory remarks. But the 44th president of the United States, President Barack Hussein Obama, he's not going to be looking at some people from Detroit. And so it took emphasis in 2014, where President Obama introduced My Brother's Keeper initiative, which was really birthed and spawned from the HR 721 resolution, which came from the impetus of my Boys to Books program, which was the springboard for My Brother's Keeper, which is impacting young men all over the country. And so I developed this program through literacy, leadership, and life skill development to teach our young men to read, to provide culturally relevant literature. Walter D. Myers, the writer of over 100 novels, said, books should transmit values. If I'm not in the book, what does that say about my value? And so to provide information and relevance to young men to where they see their lives reflected in what they read. That's where the power is. Culturally relevant literature and pedagogy is what is the impetus here. And so young men's lives have been changed through this program. And, if people are listening, they can bring this program to their school, their community center, their church.
And they can get that information on the website.
Yes, they can get it on the website, eddiecounter.com.
Amen.
They can get that there. So this is really the genesis of a movement. This is revolutionary, and you have to do this through literacy. You have to empower and motivate and mentor to where our young men have a gauge by which they can connect to somebody who also has come from where they come from. I live on the east side of Detroit. I'm an east side rider. So I come from the struggle. You know, we talk about the light, but we also have to talk about the blight. We talk about the dream, but we also have to talk about the nightmare, and then help to eradicate and disrupt not just this school to prison pipeline, but this preschool to prison pipeline that is now impairing our young men. They don't have to go to prison. They can go to Princeton. They don't have to go to jail. They can go to Cornell and Yale. They don't have to do 4 years in a prison house. They can do 4 years at Morehouse. They don't have to do 4 years in a correctional facility. They can do 4 years at a college or a university.
Absolutely.
And that's the power of really what this program is all about.
Because we see the evidence of what's happening in the jails or prison system.
Absolutely.
And we know that our black men, young boys, get a harsher sentence than the average white.
Yes, indeed.
And so we have to change that.
We do.
And we have to get the message out. And you're the powerhouse behind getting that message out.
Well, yes. We have to take it to the streets. We have to. Our churches now have to be that. Our church, you know, if you think about the civil rights movement, the church was the epicenter for the community. It was the homeless shelter. It was the food shelter. You know, it operated not just on Sundays, but it operated throughout the week. And I believe our churches have to get back, our communities have to get back to that being the place, the epicenter where big business is not coming for us. Right. Yes, we're thankful for what even sometimes some of the commissions that the government does, but that's not our source. God is our source, but He's also used us as a vehicle to be able to speak truth to power. The prophetic voice of the church cannot be muffled. It cannot be muted. It must be amplified to where we're now able to gauge and call a commission to be able to inspire our youth, our elderly, those who are in our community to succeed and soar to new heights.
Yes, and use anyone that can help get that message.
That's right.
Get that message out.
Yes.
Well, I am just honored.
I
am just honored to meet you. And talk with you, and just hear you talk about your experiences and what God has brought you through. You're a walking miracle. I am. A walking miracle. Praise God.
Nothing but the grace of God.
Nothing but the grace of God.
Yes, indeed.
So you have a message to share.
Yes, indeed.
You're obligated.
Absolutely. It is our onus. We have the responsibility. Yes, indeed.
And I know our audience is going to just be blessed. Not only with this interview, but all of what you have on the website. I just got the listing. I thought, wow, this is good. I go to the next one. This is good. And we'll end with talking about you being a preacher and you being called to the ministry and what some of the ministries you're involved in currently. You preach at New Mount Moriah.
Yes, I'm a member of Greater New Mount Moriah under the auspices of Reverend Kevin James Flowers.
Amen.
But you know, I have a ministry as well, my mother and I, called Open Door Ministries International.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. And so she goes to France, the British West Indies, of course, Jamaica, where I grew up. And she really just shares the good news of Jesus Christ. And so God has opened up a plethora of doors for me to go throughout this city and preach the gospel and also around the country. And really preaching and ministry is my passion.
Oh, I see that.
You know, Jeremiah said it's like fire shut up in your bones. I spoke at a conference, a pre-K transition conference, to about 600 to 700 teachers.
Okay.
And one lady walked up to me. She said, "You were a doctor for about 20 minutes, but then you changed it on over to a preacher." And so, you know, I'm just influenced by so many great people who have been able to coalesce community, civic duty, but also the gauge of preaching and community responsibility, such as a Dr. King, who has been one of my greatest influences. And to have that passion, that fire, and to be able to empower and to be able to charge and to motivate people and to change their conscience. You know, I believe one of the greatest calls of a preacher is Romans chapter 12, verses 1, which says to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that's really the call of a preacher, to transform somebody's mind, because the mind is the center for the heart, for the will. Yes. And if you can engage their mind and transform them by the power and the renewing salvation of the Holy Spirit, yes, they can go back and change their community. Mm-hmm. They can change their school. They can, yes, change the dynamic of their home. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. And so I think, as I alluded to, the prophetic voice of the preacher, yes, just can't be enriched and transition in what they can gain, but it has to be in what they can give. Yes. Yes. And so yes, really the beautiful are the feet of those who bring the gospel of peace. Yes, indeed. Yes. And so I count it an honor to be able, yes, to do it, and that's my ultimate passion, ministry. And we'll see what God does, amen, in relationship to opening doors. Amen. And He may move it from evangelism to pastoral work. Right. We'll see. We'll just go in God's divine order. But I, yes, count it an honor and a privilege, yes, to be able to be on this program, and for your voice to be able to transmit it throughout these airwaves, and for you to provide a platform to give people victory through your voice. I know that eyes haven't seen and ears haven't heard what God has in store for you, because you have a heart of love that is being able to be transmitted. So those who are listening, I want you to support my dear sister from another mister, Barbra Gentry-Pugh, and be able to let somebody know that she is a voice of inspiration. Sow into her ministry. Help this message to go out and touch more lives around the globe. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Let's make history. That's history-making moment. Yes, yes. Well, to our audience, we just want you to know that Dr. Connor is doing an awesome job in the community, and we ask that you support him in all that he's doing. And you can find them on the World Wide Web, yes, at www.eddieconnor.com. And it's just a pleasure to have you. I know our audience have been blessed today. Appreciate it. And we thank you for being a part of the show today. Thank you so much. This is Heart Expressions with Barbara, and we will see you on next week. Thank you. Thank you so much. Pleasure.